Do you wanna see what it should look like on the agenda?
Oh, no, that's okay. I know I
Okay.
have it. I see that we have a few people on here.
Excellent. Welcome all. We'll open the meeting in just a minute.
All right.
We have
I do see
Ava
Ben
Orton,
coming in,
we
so-
have Jan Williams, and we have
Thank you.
Luz.
My name's Luis Pacheco.
Oh, thank you.
Pacheco.
That was way better than me. Woo.
Do you guys still have the water, like the drinking water in here? You take it out?
Yeah, go right in where the other guys are in there, way in
Okay.
there, yeah. To the left.
Thank you.
Help yourself.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
So you're writing down who's on, because I didn't
Yes, ma'am,
pay
I
attention.
got it. And then we have
We had a day without you, should have seen what we got away with.
I'm feeling, lonely.
Oh, and Sean, needs a non-public.
Excellent. I stopped in to chat with him, but he was on the phone, so I
Oh,
didn't even knock on the door, so.
Okay. And it's under C, reputation.
Okay, and, so we've got a legal coming up, and
Yep.
then we've got a C.
Yes.
Are we pretty much set to go?
Yeah.
I'm set.
Okay, I will open this meeting at 9:05. First item on our agenda, a little bit different this morning, we have a public hearing to accept unanticipated revenue received from the state of New Hampshire in the amount of $69,410.20 for a special one-time municipal bridge payment in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 31:95-B. This one-time bridge payment is being made available to Lyme in state fiscal year 2023 based on the passage of a Senate Bill 401 that was effective in July of 2022. The state has been directed to divide and distribute a $36 million one-time payment between all New Hampshire municipalities that have municipally owned bridges. 50% of the distribution is based on the municipality's percentage of statewide municipal bridge deck surface area, and the remaining 50% of the distribution is based on the municipality's percentage of statewide population. This one-time bridge payment is not related at all to the quarterly block grant aid payments that the municipality receives. The payment can only be used on the maintenance, construction, or reconstruction of municipally owned bridges. So again, that's $69,410.20. So I think we need a motion to accept this money.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Okay, Ben, thank you. Are there any questions or any discussion?
May I just say something real quick?
One sec, yes. Is there
Oh.
anybody out here that,
I was just wondering what proportion of what's needed that is. Is there more money needed?
Yes.
Will that get us a long way towards what we need done?
No, we have a bridge fund and capital reserve funds. And there's several bridges that
I know.
could use replacement,
right?
and they're all expensive, so.
But
And we've
This
been
is-
thinking about the Edgeo Bridge.
Yeah.
Scott really wants to get the Edgeo Bridge addressed.
Right, how soon does that money have to be used?
You have heard all the information that I have on it is here, so I can't answer that.
Yeah, they're,
But there must
May I say
be,
something real quick?
yeah, hold on just a sec. We will put you on just a sec.
Okay.
I don't know those details. So,
Okay.
Rich,
they're,
So this is, I think I heard you say that this money is in addition to the block grants
Yes.
that we talked about last night,
correct.
which happens also to be about $69,000, as I
The
remember.
block grant usually is around 95 or 100,000, and it's usually used,
Wow, 69, you're right. You're right,
And it must be used for
Usually is.
bridges, bridge only,
Right.
right?
yeah.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is something else.
Right.
That
Right.
block grant usually
Cool.
goes for a road project.
And then if this is a public hearing, I say we should take it.
Okay, you are welcome to say that. Okay, do you want to?
Well, I was just gonna give a little info on the Edgeo Bridge, which is the one that Scott's aiming for.
You have one other comment on there?
And we had,
Yeah, let's
I don't
let
know.
him
Oh,
speak.
sorry.
And then we can do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I was on Dorchester Road, and there was a naked man on the side of the road. I kid you not, a naked man. First time I've ever seen it. I'm just visiting here to go.
We don't usually have that, and it's a little chilly for it, but, we will advise the police department.
Or he could call the police
Or
department.
you could call them
Himself.
yourself, yep.
I did, I have.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
just gonna keep muting this person.
okay,
I
thank
don't
you.
think they're-
So Dina, did you wanna give us some information?
Sure, I'd love to give you a little info.
He's
So
not
there-
here, obviously.
There was an
That
estimate.
would be entertaining,
Yes.
actually.
He's gone now, so,
No.
said what he wanted to.
Goodness.
There is an estimate that was received last year, actually, and it's $146,500 to do everything, and there's two
On the
different-
Edgel Bridge.
and this is just the Edgeo Bridge, right?
Mhm.
And there's two different parts to it. One is to fix and repair and all that, and the other one is to do some additional fire retardant and things like that. So that has not been considered and acted upon by the board at all. But of course, the 69 can be used towards that.
Good.
That's all I
When we
want to say.
get this, presumably, should we put it into the bridge repair capital reserve fund?
No,
Or it has to go someplace separate?
we've already received it,
Yeah,
and it's in a line account designated for the bridge only, and labeled, or a bridge
In the
only, and
undesignated
labeled
fund.
this. Well, I track it differently, but it can stay there.
yeah,
If you put a warrant article in to move it into the bridge fund, then you can't use it unless you have a vote.
okay,
So
So
the
this way
beauty
we
of
can
leaving
use
it there, it's a grant, so it's just like the other grants we get. We kind
Okay.
of track them separately and use them for what they're for.
excellent. All right, further comments, suggestions? All those in favor of accepting this grant of $69,410.20, say aye.
David, I.
Judy, aye. It is done.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know we had talked about the Edgel Bridge. I didn't realize that we'd gone so far as to getting some quotes.
Yeah, like I said,
This
prior,
time
it
around.
was prior, that's right. And it could, the quote could be higher now that it's been a year.
I remember when you got those.
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, there were several.
I think that
applicants.
that is all the,
Yeah.
I remember.
There were a few other,
all the
sorry.
business we had for the public hearing, so we will close the public hearing at 9:13. And we'll move into our quote-unquote regular business, which would be public comments. And then at 9:30, Mr. Ram is, or a little before that, depending on how many public comments we had. Do we have public comments? Phoebe?
I have a curiosity question.
Ms.
You, as long as you call everybody the same, I don't care. There's a lot of non-public sessions,
Yes,
and I saw one that I was just like, why is this non-public? It was drafting a letter
yes.
to the liquor commission about the skiway, and I thought,
Well, we thought that was a bit reputational. There were some comments that were rather candid that were made that we didn't think should be made in public session.
about the skiway?
Those darn skiers.
And it could have been various other things that had to do with getting a liquor license.
That's why. We really try not to go into, but we
No.
have had a number of them.
I understand, it's just, you know. Okay, curious.
Mhm.
And is the letter then a matter of public record or no?
I don't know the answer to that, we can ask town council, but the discussion certainly was.
Sure. No, I hear you. Just, you read these things, just,
I know, it's
what's going on?
intriguing, it's better than the Valley News.
Oh, the Valley News is interesting.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Anyone online?
I see a hand up, hang on a minute.
Or naked people.
Hi, Jan, go ahead.
Can I raise my hand?
Yes,
If you notice,
oh, sorry. Okay, well, hi anyways.
that's all right, I'm happy to speak for a minute.
Okay.
Dina's been actually exploring the vision problem. You've heard me talk about it like a broken record for a number of months now. There has indeed been a glitch and a holdup, and it seems to be due to the, vision folks. And, I think progress is slowly being made. We're not quite there yet, but I'm grateful that it's getting some attention from you all.
Oh, great, thank you. We are hoping that it gets resolved. All right. Anything
I
else?
see no other
No other
hands.
hands? Well, then I would suggest we give the floor to Mr. Graham to tell us about the Lyme Electrical Aggregation Committee.
Okay, thank you. You wanna, we have a couple of handouts, thank you. So, this is,
I could use an acronym.
yeah,
That's a mouthful.
Thank you.
EAC or LEAC, you can have one
Oh,
too,
thanks.
actually.
Appreciate it.
This handout was made for us by, there's a Dartmouth group of students, so they are helping.
Yeah,
Work
Dartmouth
towards
Energy
it.
Alliance
Yeah.
is,
And so this is kind of
been helping.
a first stab at kind of public information with some questions and perhaps useful information for you guys as well.
All right, so I'm basically here to report on what the Electrical Aggregation Committee has been up to and what we're gonna ask the select board to do. You may have seen, I didn't bring a copy of it, but there's been a couple of articles recently in the Valley News about community power aggregations in the area, so it's sort of a hot topic now. But, so first I wanna answer the question of what is community power aggregation, because it's kind of a complicated subject. But in brief, it is the legal structure that allows towns to purchase electrical power on the wholesale market and supply it to their community. In 2019, the New Hampshire legislature passed RSA 53, which allows cities, towns, and counties to form community power aggregations. It's taken this long for the Public Utilities Commission to define the rules of the road, and this is the first year that CPAs will purchase and supply power to customers. So this is like a new thing for New Hampshire, these community power aggregations. So the other important thing to understand is that our electric bills have two parts. One part is the electric supply, and the other part, that's the actual electricity. The other part of the bill is the distribution, which is like the lines that come to our homes, and the infrastructure there. So community power aggregations relate only to the supply part of the electric bill. So if Lyme forms a CPA, the distribution of electricity and maintenance of infrastructure will still be taken care of by Eversource and the New Hampshire Electric Co-op. So CPAs are just concerned about the supply. So the point of a CPA is that it can provide greater local control over how much we pay for electrical supply and where it comes from. Currently, anyone can choose from a number of suppliers for their electricity, but as a CPA, Lyme will be able to use bulk purchasing power to bid for electricity at lower costs. And going forward, the community power aggregation structure will allow us to take advantage of new sources of power as they come online, right, which we see like as more solar farms and things like that come online. It will give us more control over where we want to get our power from. So, and the other, it's important to note that if Lyme forms a community power aggregation, individual customers can always opt out and go and use Eversource or whoever they want. In the 2020 town meeting, Lyme passed a resolution to rely on 100% clean renewable power by 2030. And forming a community power aggregation can help us achieve that goal by having more control over where we actually get our electricity from. So, in order to take advantage of this and to form a community power aggregation, the aggregation committee has decided that the best approach is to join what's called the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. The Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire is a nonprofit joint powers agency that was created to assist New Hampshire towns in launching community power programs. Currently, there are 27 member towns in the coalition, including the nearby towns of Hanover, Lebanon, Enfield, and Plainfield. The membership represents over 20% of the state's population. And as an aside, Clifton Below of Lebanon was instrumental in forming this coalition and also writing the legislation that made community power a reality, or a law for New Hampshire. By joining CPC&H, Lyme can get help with the process of creating an energy aggregation plan. And we need to create an energy aggregation plan before we can form a community power aggregation. Let's see, so they can help us with that because they have the resources and knowledge to help us put together this energy aggregation plan, which is kind of a big deal. And will take work on the part of our committee to do this. Once we have that plan, that would be something that the town would vote on at town meeting, whether to adopt that plan and form a CPA. So we couldn't actually form a CPA until after town meeting next year, after we've developed this plan and then the town would vote on it. So what CPC&H can do is help us make the plan, and if the town accepts that, then they can help us in the administration of buying and selling power. And by being part of this coalition, we increase our bulk purchasing power on the market.
Because we can combine with them to do that.
Exactly.
So, a lot of times I'm confused about what we can do, what the select board can do, what has to go to town meeting. So you just expressed the view that in order to do this, we would need a vote at town meeting. Did you consult with town council to make that determination, or how did we
No.
reach that conclusion?
That's part of the RSA.
Okay,
The RSA.
Thank you.
contains that, yeah. So there are some things which I'll get to that you as a select board will need to do to, sort of get us on the path to that decision.
Can I interject one more
Yep.
thing if I could? So, this committee is formed, we form this next version of it, we work to develop the plan, we go to town meeting 2024, we perhaps get it voted in. As an individual consumer of electricity, am I automatically a part then of the towns, and I have to opt out if I don't wanna be a part of the town?
That's right, that's right. But there's also a step after we form a community power aggregation, there's another step as to whether we're actually gonna buy the power, you know, from CPC&H or not. So there's
Okay.
like a series of things.
Thank
And
you.
I'll get to that. Let's see. So actually, CPC&H's first electrical power offering is gonna take place this year. The member towns now are working to decide what the cost sharing agreements are gonna be and how much the rates are gonna be. But we can't take, even if we join now, we can't take advantage of that because we need to have a plan.
But you could tell us next year what they say.
Exactly, so this is, in a way, you know, as much as I would have liked to get going, right on,
Don't be the bleeding edge.
it'll be good to have a year to see how the coalition, you know, works out, so.
So how does it work with, we have two power companies in town, how does it handle that?
If we form this and we become the supplier for the town, we just become that item on either bill. As far as infrastructure and everything else, those companies still take care of it as they always did, or if there's a blackout, that's who you would call. We're just the supplier. For example, back in the summer, I switched from Eversource as the supplier to Direct Energy, which I think they're somewhere in Texas or something. So I get on the bill, it says, you know, Eversource is my supplier, the bill comes from Eversource. You know, I mean, Eversource is my electric company, but the supply line is from Direct Energy. And that's how it would remain the same.
To save money?
I do,
So,
yeah.
in the beginning of this presentation, you articulated two objectives, I think. One is to reduce the cost of electrical power to Lyme residents, and the other is having to do with the sourcing of power and whether it's renewable or has other sort of environmentally beneficial criteria. Is there a tension between those two goals, or have you not had time to look at that?
Well-
If you're just trying to get the cheapest electricity possible, you go a different route than you go if you,
Right.
if you're trying to get 100% renewable or meet those objectives.
So that's a good question, because it's a question that we're still wrangling with in some ways, but from what we've gained from the coalition, the CPC&H, is their primary intent is to bring the cost down. And I think they're working out now how they're going to, you know, what their rate is gonna be. But they'll offer a kind of menu of, you know, do you want the lowest cost one, or do you wanna get your supply, you know, 50% or 100% renewable? And this is actually something that I was able to do through Direct Energy as an individual. They have several different plans you can choose from. I chose to spend a little bit more, get 100% renewable, but it's still lower than what the default, you know, what Eversource is charging now. So we don't know all the details yet about how the coalition will present its package, but on the whole, the intent is to keep the cost down, to make it attractive to everybody, but then also offer the ability to choose renewables. And there is some evidence that already that some renewable sources that are coming online are gonna be cheaper going down the road anyway, so.
So you think that choice will be available through this at an individual consumer level, or do you think the
That's-
town will have to make a choice and?
That's what we're not clear of exactly yet, and that will come around through the course of this year. I think I'm right in saying
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah, I think
That-
in April is the first time they're actually gonna have hard numbers on what
Right.
the costs of everything are.
And, you know, with the coalition, we've tried to get information, but it's a little difficult until you're a member. So, once we're a member, we'll have more. So let's see, right, so I did that. So in order to join CPC&H, the select board will need to sign a joint powers agreement. That's sort of our ticket into membership of the coalition. It's the legal document that establishes the coalition. It's a non-binding agreement that allows member towns to join or leave at any time. There's no liability in joining the coalition. The only requirement is that members send a representative to attend meetings. And that representative can be someone from our committee.
Got a streaker on there?
Yeah, I was concerned, I knew
You
that.
know, we got, keep looking at the door, right?
We're waiting for it.
Yeah. So it's only later if the town agrees to purchase power through CPC&H that members will become liable for any costs. And any costs that are incurred through our agreements with the coalition will be in customers' bills. So there's nothing that the town will be paying separately from, the billing that happens. Though I think we will find out more later about, there is one thing that the town would be responsible for if we join up and have a cost-sharing agreement, is that somebody in the town office will need to be like a point person, basically somebody who, a phone number, that the suppliers can contact, because the coalition can't be the point person from this electrical supplier. There just has to be somebody in the town. And that'll become more clear once we have more information on this. But what we're asking, what the aggregation committee is asking today, is for the select board to review and sign the joint powers agreement so that we can begin the process of developing an electrical aggregation plan and be ready to bring this to the town next year.
Next year.
And then we can decide from there.
Where do we get a copy of the agreement to review, or do you have?
So I have one, because it's a big document, and took me a while to, do you wanna take?
Oh,
Give
yeah.
it to our reviewer.
And I can send,
Do you have it electronically?
I'll send it electronically to you.
Yeah, that'd be good, because she will send it on to town council
Right.
and
Yeah,
David will
Yep.
Yeah,
give it a read as well.
so the main point of that is that it's designed so that there's no obligation by the town. It's just, joining this coalition, being part of it. And then, and again, we could leave at any time, even if next year we decide to be if the town decides that they don't wanna do this, we can leave the coalition and we've incurred no costs or anything. We can also decide to be a CPA, but then decide that we don't like any of the cost-sharing agreements and not
not do
join up
anything.
at that point. So this first step is really, there's no obligation, it's just being a member of this nonprofit to move forward.
It lets us tap into some of the expertise and the administrative support at the state level that's already been developed. They've got resources around a lot of the materials that you need to help with this decision-making, including like analyzing the current state of the supply in town and
Right.
legal structures and that kind of thing. Without this JPA being signed, we can't really.
We don't have access to
We
that
can't
stuff.
access that.
So, does that take board action or town meeting action?
To sign the JPA is just the select board.
Just the board,
Yeah.
okay.
And also, when you review that, if you have any questions, we can probably connect you with, we've traded some information with the guy, I don't know if he's on the select board in Plainfield, or he's just on the it's Evan Oxenham.
Oh, right, right.
He has a lot of information about it. Plainfield has joined the coalition. They're a similar sized town to Lyme, and he
And
has
there-
a lot of information.
And there's Don Crease, who is a lawyer down in,
He's a
Concord.
public advocate.
he's a
yeah.
public advocate for the PUC down in Concord, and we have, I know him, but he's knowledgeable and accessible.
Right, so if there are any questions.
I would suggest that we put this on the docket for next meeting. And we hopefully will be able to get it, you scooch it to electronically to Dina. She'll
Okay.
forward it on to town council. And
Great.
That's
Yeah,
great,
that'd be
quick
great,
action,
yeah.
wonderful. Yep.
All right, well, thank you for listening and.
Thanks for the presentation.
Yes, excellent presentation. You can tell your Dartmouth friends that they did a good job.
Yeah, it's great.
They've been very helpful. I don't know if
Very
they dialed
clear.
in. They were hoping, some of them were.
Well, maybe some of the names, oh, somebody's clapping, I bet that's one of
Yeah,
them.
Yeah, they've been
Kudos.
really
But the
helpful
names, I was like,
in
must be
keeping us, you know,
Great.
on the right track.
Oh, great. Thank you for the presentation and thank you for all that work.
Sure,
Hopefully the materials will make it more accessible too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good at answering.
We'll read through it and hopefully get some advice on what to do, hopefully at our next meeting.
Yeah, don't look at the JPA, it'll put you right to
Make
sleep.
We'll leave that to the lawyers.
David has trouble sleeping at night. Okay, great.
I
Thanks
did
so
read
much.
it. I read the whole thing.
Oh, good for you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you all.
And thank you Dartmouth students, whoever are still on.
Yes, good job. Okay, moving right along. Approval of the January 12th public session minutes.
Oh,
Oh,
I made a mess of those.
no, you didn't, it was great, I
I
think.
looked at those this morning, after I got here, actually, because at 8:30 in the morning, I'm not on my computer.
I'm gonna, I gotta go to work. Thank you, guys.
Bye,
Thank you.
thank you.
Coming in.
Yep.
I had no issues with any of those proposed changes.
When I first started practicing law, I used to look for this really strict, severe woman partner. And I'd do these, I'd write stuff up, and she used to mark it up by hand in red ink, and
Yep.
I'd get it back and it looked like someone had been murdered over the document. Cover letter.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it bothers people to have corrections to their minutes.
So-
I don't call them corrections, no, they're your minutes, we're never offended.
So I'll go ahead and move those
I'll
dates,
second
and Ben will second them. There is no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
And
Judy, aye.
Thank
They
you.
are approved. Thank you, everybody. And think we're gonna have a manifest or no?
No,
No manifest.
no time for that this week,
We should take a.
sad but true.
We have a tax mapping maintenance contract,
Yes, ma'am.
and, it is, it's done, here it is, scope of services, it's in the packet,
Here's the first one.
and we're processing data from April 1, 2023 through March 31st, 2024.
Correct.
And maintenance service is
$2,500.
$2,500. I was distracted by the $20.
I know. That's if you GPS buildings, but we haven't
We
been,
haven't been doing that.
so.
So, if
it
you,
seems like something we have to do, so
It is.
it is.
I'll move them.
You don't have to
Okay,
have them.
thank you, Ben.
And there's two, right, there's that one, and then this one is the,
Okay.
planning and zoning one, which is $900.
I'll move
I brought that
as well.
special for
The
you.
same
You like it?
dates
No, you're,
Yeah.
and changes made as a result of tax map maintenance that affects planning maps. So there's 2,500 and 900. And I will second those, Ben, thanks for moving them. Further discussion, comments, questions? You're all set? All those in favor say aye, and Judy, aye. Those are approved, and everyone will sign those. Okay, that's done, that's done.
Marvelous, thank you.
That's the public hearing. All right, next, moving right along. We have the budget last night had its first public hearing on both the school and the town. The school met somewhat in the middle, and it was approved by the budget committee. It's something like $8,404,000 and some change.
427, I think, is
And, which is a 5.6% increase, it's under 6% increase. I could go through all these papers and find it if anyone is really interested. And the town's, operating budget and warrant articles as presented were approved as well. And, it was very encouraging, it was a good meeting, and I think it showed that the struggles and conversations and questions from the previous several meetings paid off, because everyone was knowledgeable, everyone knew where they were going, and it was a nice, I thought, a good evening, one of the best I've seen in a long time on budgeting. So we await the February.
They're just getting tired.
Yes, and it was bad weather, and we were here for a little over an hour, it was great. February 8th, so stay tuned for that. And, okay. Yes.
I see that, I mean, it's not really our issue, I suppose, except indirectly, but just following along my listserv digest that I get every so often, I see that there's some drama about the school budget. Can anyone tell us what's going on there, or what the? I'm just curious as to what the sort of general state of play is.
I need to do this. I think, well, Dina would certainly know, I think we have, some folks who think more money needs to be in the budget, and to have a adequate school educational funding, and other folks who think that there's more than enough and it should be cut down some.
That's what happens every year.
Right. The difference between the original one, not original one, but the one presented, that was 8,000,003 whatever, and then last night's was $76,300, I think. And so the budget committee voted to go with the lower budget, which was the one that the school came forward with.
But there's some people in town who are unhappy with that budget.
Right, they want that money put back in.
But
For
that-
whatever
You
reasons.
know, all the years I was on the budget committee for 12 years, that was the same theme, that money equated to a
Right.
better education. And it's certainly debatable.
Thank you.
Well, and they're in a state of flux because of the change in the way everything is being administered and the
Right.
structure, so it's, it's a difficult year.
And if I may, I thought that the school board's finance committee report was very helpful,
Yeah,
rather self-reflective, and pointing out ways to save, if nothing else, joining some other SAU, so we don't have to bear the full expense of the SAU, so.
Mhm. Here's this,
oh,
thank
sorry,
you.
thank you.
Do we have any other public issues at this moment? Do we have something else we need to do? Otherwise,
The solar,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just wanted to throw this by you guys. The, Energy Committee, Mark Bollinger sent a RFP geared towards the library building, because now that they can't do the fire station, they're gonna do,
Or the
try
town
to do.
garage.
Or the town garage. And so they're gonna attempt to do the library. So his question was, because of the uniqueness of the library and the library trustees and all that, who's ultimately responsible for the project that they're recommending, whether it's the library trustees or the select board? So I chatted briefly with Laura at Minnesota,
Mitchell
Thank you.
Municipal.
too many M's. And because the library, even though the trustees are, responsible for the maintenance and overseeing and things like that, it's a town asset and the Board of Selectmen is ultimately responsible for it. But after saying that, the spirit of working together should be in the air so that the library trustees and the board, make sure that both of them are positive and willing to move ahead with this. And I think ultimately you guys will be the ones that will have to sign on the dotted line, but, doing it together is probably the best way.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense, and I would say if they were opposed, with good reasons to be opposed, we should certainly honor that. But I can imagine that we can't, the two trustees and the select board get together and
Right.
find middle ground to go
Right.
forward.
So can we send a little note or communication to the chair of the library trustees?
Yep.
And Judy Russell?
My understanding just from the energy committee meetings is that the trustees were in favor,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
um,
I don't know
as
if they're
was
in
Judy.
favor of the select board overseeing it, or being the ones that have to
Yeah.
okay it, that's the issue, I would just wanna
I don't
make sure
see-
everybody's comfortable with.
I don't see any contention there, so I don't know why that would be.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, we shouldn't borrow trouble when there isn't any.
that's exactly right, but
Okay.
it's all about communication,
Yep.
thank you.
You are welcome.
So I'll do that.
Just a follow-up from the Christmas time storms. We had talked about maybe sending an email or an actual physical letter down to Con Ed. You have a name down there that we could contact, just to thank them because their coming here was,
Oh, I didn't know you were doing that. Well, you'll have to find out what the two other companies were too. There was more than one, but,
Would
Yeah.
Scott know that?
probably either Scott or Aaron, I can find out.
that would be great. I think we should do that.
Yeah, that's
It
a
made
nice
a big
idea, we
difference.
should send a thank you note. Have any leftover hams?
I can get one, but I'm not sure it's gonna go very far with those guys. It'd be like one piece apiece. Okay, thank you, Dina.
Uh-huh.
And, I think if that's it, we are ready to go into a non-public session. And holy smokes, it must be in the air. Fast
Mm.
meetings. I will move that we go into non-public session under RSA 91A:3, Roman numeral 2, little letter C, which is reputation.
This about the naked man?
I was gonna say, what's Sean doing about the naked guy on Goose Pond Road?
Did you get a report of a naked guy on the road?
No?
Had somebody call in the meeting,
It
it
was
sounded
definitely
kinda
a
a little
hacker.
crazy,
Do you
but,
think so?
he was,
Naked